She saved 3 blind wolves, until their eyes turned gold and they claimed her as their fated mate. Shadows moved like living things, and the air was heavy with secrets. Most villagers avoided this part of the kingdom. They said the forest belonged to something older than men, something that could see your heart and judge it. But she walked on without fear. Her name was Elara, and she had always felt drawn to places where others dared not go. Perhaps it was curiosity, or perhaps it was loneliness. In the village, people called her strange, though she never minded. She preferred the company of the wind and the quiet of the trees to the chatter of people who could not understand her. That night, the forest called her with a sound unlike anything she had heard before. It was a low, haunting howl, broken and weak, yet full of longing. She stopped, her heart tightening. It was not the howl of a normal wolf, it was deeper, almost human in its sadness. Without thinking, she followed the sound, stepping over roots and fallen branches. Soon, she found them. 3 wolves lay tangled in ropes, their fur matted, their eyes milky and blind. Their breathing was shallow and their bodies shook with pain. Hunters' traps had caught them, leaving them helpless in the clearing. Despite the fear that rose in her chest, she knelt beside them. "It's okay," she whispered softly. "I won't hurt you." Her voice trembled, but her hands were steady. She cut the ropes carefully, one by one, and tended to their wounds with water from a nearby stream. She could feel their eyes on her, even if they could not see. The largest wolf, his body scarred and trembling, growled softly, not in anger but in warning. She held her ground, kneeling on the moss, brushing the fur from his face. "You don't have to be afraid," she murmured. "I only want to help." For a long time, none of them moved. Then slowly the smallest wolf leaned against her leg, seeking warmth. She smiled faintly, her heart swelling with both hope and fear. These creatures were no ordinary wolves. She felt it in her bones. There was something ancient in the way they breathed, something old and sorrowful. Night deepened and the air grew colder. She built a small fire, careful to keep it low, and the wolves huddled close, their bodies shivering. She spoke to them quietly, telling them stories of the village, of the sky, of the wind. She told them of how she often felt alone, though never without purpose. Slowly, it seemed, they began to trust her. Their breathing became less erratic, and she felt a strange warmth in the pit of her stomach, a bond forming, unspoken but real. Hours passed. The moon climbed higher, casting pale light on the clearing. She finally laid down on the soft moss, keeping one hand near the smallest wolf. Sleep tried to claim her, but a strange feeling kept her eyes open. Something in the forest was stirring, something beyond her understanding. She sensed it before she saw it, a flicker of golden light dancing along the edge of the clearing. The wolves stiffened. Their heads turned as if they could see beyond sight itself. The largest wolf rose, trembling with tension, and let out a low growl. She followed his gaze, her heart hammering. The golden light shimmered closer, circling the clearing, but it did not belong to any fire or star. It was alive, and it was watching them. Suddenly, the smallest wolf stepped forward. Its milky eyes were beginning to glow faintly, a golden shimmer spreading like sunlight breaking through clouds. Elara gasped and took a step back. The wolf's gaze locked onto hers. In that moment, she felt an electric connection, as if the creature could see her very soul. Her breath caught in her throat. "You," she whispered, though she did not know what she meant. The wolf lowered its head, brushing against her hand with a surprising gentleness. Then, almost instantly, all 3 wolves' eyes began to glow golden. They moved closer, not threateningly, but with an undeniable purpose. Elara felt a shiver run down her spine. The air grew thick with power, ancient and alive. Her heart pounded with a mix of fear and awe. Something shifted in the forest. The wind hushed, and the shadows seemed to lean closer, curious. She realized the wolves were no ordinary animals. They were something old, cursed perhaps, or bound by forces she could not name. She did not know whether to be afraid or to fall to her knees in wonder. The largest wolf circled her slowly, golden eyes studying her, and stopped, letting out a low, almost human sigh. The middle wolf lay down beside her, head tilted, breathing steadily. The smallest wolf stayed closest, pressing against her. The bond she felt now was undeniable, deep and inexplicable. Her hand rose, trembling, to touch the largest wolf's face. The golden eyes met hers, and she felt a rush of warmth and longing. The connection was not only theirs, it was hers too. Something ancient had chosen her, something that existed beyond understanding. She could feel it in her heart. The forest, the wolves, the very night had all come together for this moment. As sleep claimed her at last, she dreamed of eyes that shone like gold, of voices that whispered not in words but in emotions. She dreamed of kings and queens, of curses and destinies, of hands reaching across time and space. She awoke with the first hint of dawn, and the wolves were gone, or perhaps they had never been fully wolves at all. A sound broke the morning silence. She froze. A low growl, soft and deliberate, came from behind the trees. Her blood ran cold. Slowly she turned, and there, standing at the edge of the clearing, was the largest wolf. Its eyes were now a full, brilliant gold. They glowed with intelligence, with power, with something she could not name. It stepped forward, muscles rippling, and stopped just before the firelight. Its gaze never left hers. She felt her breath catch. In that moment, she knew the truth. The wolves were bound to her, by fate or magic or something older still. They were hers as much as she belonged to them. A soft rumble echoed from the wolf's throat. It was a sound that spoke without words. "Mate," it seemed to say, though no human voice had made the sound. She staggered back a step, her heart racing. Could this be real? Could this creature, these creatures, truly have chosen her? Her mind spun, torn between awe and fear. The wind whispered through the trees, and for the first time she felt truly alive. She was part of something greater, something dangerous and beautiful. She had saved them from the traps of men, and now they were claiming her in ways she could not yet understand. The forest seemed to hold its breath. The golden eyes watched, patient and unyielding. The bond was set, and there was no turning back. Something had awakened that night, something ancient, something magical, something destined. And as the sun rose, painting the forest in shades of gold and green, Alara realized that her life had changed forever. She could not see the end of this path, nor could she guess what lay ahead. All she knew was that she was bound to the three golden-eyed wolves, and they would not let her go. The largest wolf stepped closer, nudging her hand, and she felt warmth, protection, and something else, a promise that neither of them could yet name. The forest around them seemed to hum with anticipation, and she understood that this was only the beginning. The bond had been forged. The wolves had claimed her, and in her heart a spark of destiny ignited, a spark that would either save them all or consume them in ways she could not yet imagine. The forest was quiet, yet it felt alive in ways Alara could not name. Golden light filtered through the trees, falling on the mossy ground in shifting patterns. The wolves circled her, their golden eyes bright and watchful, as if they could see not only her body but her soul. She had never felt so exposed, and yet so protected. She had not slept well since that first night. Every rustle of leaves, every distant cry made her heart pound. Still, she could not bring herself to leave. Something in the forest called to her, and something in the wolves bound her here. She knelt by the fire and touched the largest wolf's fur, feeling the warmth beneath the coarse hairs. "You trust me," she whispered, more to herself than to him. "But I don't know if I can trust what this all means." The wolf tilted his head, golden eyes glimmering like sun on water. The smallest wolf pressed close to her side, letting out a soft, low rumble almost like a sigh. Alara could feel it in her chest, an emotion that was not quite fear, not quite hope, but something in between. It stirred a longing she had never felt before, a longing to belong, to protect, to be needed. It was then that the middle wolf stepped forward, moving with a grace that seemed almost human. His eyes held a sadness deeper than any she had ever known. She knelt down slowly, unsure if she should reach out. I don't even know your names," she said. The words sounded foolish even to her own ears, but the wolves seemed to understand anyway. Their gaze softened, as if acknowledging her attempt at connection. The forest shifted around them, the air thick with magic and memory. In the moonlight, faint shapes flickered in and out, ghosts of the past, perhaps, or fragments of dreams. Alara shivered. She felt a story in the air, a story of betrayal, power, and sorrow that had nothing to do with her own life, and yet everything to do with it now. As dawn approached, the wolves lay down beside her, still golden-eyed and alert. She could feel the heat of their bodies against hers, and for a moment all her doubts melted. She understood on a level she could not explain that these creatures had been waiting for her. Waiting for someone who would see them, who would care for them, who could help lift the weight of what had been done to them. When the sun finally rose, it did not chase away the magic. Instead, it seemed to honor it, casting light across the clearing that made the golden eyes of the wolves burn brighter. Alara stood, brushing the moss from her clothes, and faced the largest wolf. His golden gaze met hers, and in that moment she felt a certainty she could not resist. She belonged here with them, for reasons she could not yet name. The middle wolf stepped closer, and suddenly, images flashed in her mind. She saw three young men, regal and strong, standing in a grand hall with banners of a kingdom that had long fallen. They laughed, they fought, they loved. And then a shadow fell over them, a figure cloaked in black, a sorceress whose anger was as sharp as a blade. Her voice echoed in Alara's mind, whispering curses that had bound the men into these forms, these wolves. Alara stumbled back, her hand to her mouth. You were human," she whispered. The wolves' eyes softened in acknowledgement. She could sense it in the golden glow. They remembered themselves, and now she remembered them too. The truth settled in her chest like a stone. They were princes, cursed by a powerful sorceress, trapped as wolves until someone could awaken their true selves. And she, somehow, was that person. But the revelation brought no comfort. If these wolves were once men, if they had kingdoms and histories and enemies, then the danger she had felt in the forest was nothing compared to what was coming. The sorceress would not let them go so easily. She would come for them and for her. Alara's mind raced. She had been drawn to the forest by curiosity, by kindness, by some strange instinct she did not understand. But now she understood that this was no ordinary kindness. She had entered a world of magic and curses, of power far older than herself. And yet, even as fear pressed against her, she felt a fierce determination rise. She could not turn away. She would not. The largest wolf nudged her hand, grounding her. He pressed against her side, not as a beast demanding, but as a being seeking her strength as much as she sought his protection. The smallest wolf crawled onto her lap, nuzzling her gently, while the middle wolf circled, golden eyes sharp and watchful. Together they formed a circle of warmth and strength around her. "You're all alive," she whispered, more to herself than to them. "And I think I have to help you, even if I don't know how." The forest seemed to respond to her words. Leaves rustled without wind, and the golden light around the wolves shimmered brighter, as if approving her choice. She felt a pulse of hope, fragile and trembling, yet impossible to ignore. Hours passed. She taught herself to move with the wolves, to anticipate their movements, to speak without words. She learned the subtle signs of their moods, the shifts in their muscles, the way their golden eyes followed her every motion. It was exhausting, but also exhilarating. She had never felt so alive, so connected, so needed. At night, she would dream of the past. She saw the three princes again, young and strong, fighting to protect their people, laughing in the halls of a kingdom now lost. She felt their sorrow, their anger, and their longing. And she felt her own heart pulling toward them, toward the humans they once were, toward the bond they shared with her now. One night the wind carried a whisper, soft and chilling. "Do not fail them." It was not the wind. It was a voice, cold and deliberate, threaded with power. Alara shivered, clutching the smallest wolf close. The golden eyes of the wolves glimmered in the firelight, aware of the warning, tense with readiness. She understood then that their enemies were not distant. The sorceress, or whoever had cursed them, was near. She could feel it in the air, in the tremor of the leaves, in the shadows that moved as if alive. Danger was coming, and they would not be able to face it alone. Days passed. The wolves began to reveal more of themselves. Their behavior was almost human now. Moments of thought, hesitation, and emotion that went beyond instinct. They communicated with her in ways that were not words, but images, feelings, and the faintest glimpses of memory. Alara began to understand their personalities. The largest, solemn and protective; the middle, fierce and thoughtful; the smallest, gentle and trusting. Together they were a family, bound by fate and by choice. And yet the bond also brought tension. They were powerful, proud, and sometimes terrifying in their intensity. Alara could feel the strain of their emotions as keenly as her own. Love, fear, anger, and sorrow twisted together in a dangerous mixture, making every moment charged and uncertain. She was drawn to them, yet also wary of the power they held. One evening, as the sun dipped low and the forest turned silver in shadow, she felt it, a presence watching from the darkness beyond the clearing. She froze, her heart pounding, as a chill ran down her spine. The wolves stiffened, ears pricked, muscles taut. Their golden eyes flared with warning, and the smallest wolf pressed against her side, trembling. Then a figure stepped from the shadows. Cloaked in black, it moved with unnatural grace. A sorceress. Alara felt her breath catch. The woman's eyes were sharp, cruel, and full of knowledge. She smiled faintly, but the smile did not reach her eyes. "You have come far," the sorceress said, voice like ice over stone. "But you cannot save them. They belong to me." The wolves growled, their golden eyes blazing with fury. Alara took a step forward, feeling a courage she had never known. "They are not yours," she said. "They are free, or they will be." The sorceress laughed, a sound that made the forest itself shiver. "Freedom is a word for the weak. You have no idea what you have done, little girl. You are not strong enough to face what comes." The wolves bared their teeth, low growls vibrating through the clearing. Their golden eyes shone brighter than ever, as if calling on every ounce of the ancient power they had held for centuries. Alara's hands trembled, but she stood firm. She would not run. She would not leave them. The sorceress lifted her hand, dark magic swirling like smoke around her fingers. The forest seemed to hold its breath. Alara's heart pounded in her chest as she realized that their bond was no longer just a connection of trust. It was a shield, a weapon, and a lifeline. And in that moment the smallest wolf pressed against her, golden eyes glowing with urgency. The largest wolf stepped forward, chest low, muscles coiled like springs. The middle wolf circled, a growl deep and resonant, ready to strike. Together they were a force older than fear, older than the sorceress, bound by fate and by love that transcended fear and form. The sorceress's eyes narrowed. "So be it," she whispered, and vanished into the shadows, leaving a promise of darkness yet to come. Alara sank to her knees, heart racing, as the golden-eyed wolves circled her protectively. She understood the truth now. The path ahead would be dangerous, full of trials she could not yet imagine, but she would not falter. She would not leave them. And she would not turn away from the destiny that had chosen her. The forest was quiet once more, but the tension remained. Alara's hand rested on the smallest wolf, feeling warmth and life and hope. The bond was stronger than ever, but so was the danger. And somewhere in the shadows beyond the trees, a storm was gathering, a storm that would test everything she had come to know, everything she had come to love. The forest was heavy with silence, broken only by the whisper of the wind and the soft steps of 3 golden-eyed wolves. Dawn had barely touched the sky, painting it with pale streaks of light. Alara's heart thudded in her chest. She had never felt such tension before, nor such a sense of destiny pressing down upon her. The bond she shared with the wolves had grown stronger each day, but with that bond came responsibility and danger. The sorceress had vanished after her last warning, but her presence lingered like a shadow over the clearing. Alara knew she could not wait. If she wanted to free the wolves from their curse, she would have to face her fear, and the woman who had stolen their lives centuries ago. The forest seemed to pulse around her, alive with magic, as if it recognized the coming confrontation. The wolves pressed close to her side. The largest wolf, solemn and protective, walked ahead as if leading her through the labyrinth of trees. The middle wolf's eyes glimmered with thought and strategy, while the smallest, gentle and trusting, stayed at her side, brushing against her hands for reassurance. Together they formed a circle of strength, their golden eyes shining like beacons of ancient power. Alara's hands trembled slightly as she reached the edge of a dark grove, where shadows twisted unnaturally and the air grew colder. A low, echoing laugh reached her ears, carrying with it the unmistakable presence of the sorceress. She stepped forward, courage mingling with fear. "I knew you would come," the sorceress said, her voice smooth and cruel. Her eyes glinted like shards of black ice. "Do you really think you can undo centuries of my power? These wolves, or whatever they were, are mine to control." The wolves growled, a deep, resonant sound that vibrated through the trees. Alara placed herself between them and the sorceress, though she felt the weight of her own human fragility. "They are not yours," she said, voice steady despite the tremor of fear. "They are alive. They have a right to be free, and I will not let you hurt them." The sorceress's smile was thin and sharp. "Freedom is a human illusion," she whispered, and the shadows around her thickened. The ground beneath them seemed to ripple, and Alara felt a wave of dark magic sweep over her. She staggered but did not fall, gripping the smallest wolf to steady herself. The largest wolf stepped forward, chest low, muscles coiled, golden eyes blazing with power. A flash of light erupted from him, bright and warm, pushing back the sorceress's shadow. The middle wolf circled, calculating and precise, his growl deep and commanding. Together they created a barrier of strength and magic that left Alara in awe. "You are not alone," she whispered, more to herself than to the wolves. "We are together. We can do this." The sorceress's laughter rose again, cutting through the clearing like a knife. She raised her hand, dark energy swirling around her fingers, ready to strike. But the wolves did not falter. Golden eyes glowed brighter, and Alara felt their power surge into her. It was more than protection. It was a shared strength, a bond that had grown from trust, kindness, and fate. Then she understood. The curse had been broken not through anger or violence, but through love and courage. Through the compassion that had led her to save them in the first place. She placed her hands on the smallest wolf, feeling warmth and life, and whispered, "We are stronger together." A shockwave of golden light erupted from the three wolves, filling the clearing. The sorceress screamed, a sound of fury and disbelief, as her dark magic was repelled. Shadows fled, twisting into smoke before vanishing completely. The wolves began to change before her eyes. Their fur shimmered and fell away, replaced by the forms of men, tall, strong, and regal, yet still with golden light in their eyes. Alara's breath caught. She could barely believe what she was seeing. The wolves, the princes, stood before her, human again, yet their eyes still carried the ancient fire of the forest. They were not just men, they were beings of power and history, reborn through her courage and care. The largest prince stepped forward, bowing his head slightly. "You saved us," he said, voice deep and resonant. "You gave us a second chance at life, and for that we are yours." The middle prince smiled faintly, a mixture of relief and pride. "We owe everything to you. Our curse, our suffering, our freedom, it all came because of your heart." The smallest prince knelt, holding out his hand to Alara. "We were lost," he said softly, "but you found us. You have shown us that even in the darkest time there is light." Alara felt tears prick at the corners of her eyes. She had never imagined that her act of kindness could lead to this: rebirth, freedom, love, and power intertwined. She stepped forward, placing her hands in theirs, feeling the warmth, the life, and the connection. "You are free now," she said, voice shaking but steady. "And I am here, with you. Whatever comes next, we face it together." The forest seemed to sigh in relief. Sunlight poured through the trees, bathing them in golden light. For a moment, all fear and tension lifted, leaving only the warmth of connection and the power of destiny fulfilled. But even in this moment of triumph, Alara felt the weight of responsibility. The sorceress had not vanished completely. Somewhere beyond the edges of the kingdom, she still lingered, watching, waiting. And the world beyond the forest was vast, full of dangers they could not yet imagine. The princes looked at her, their golden eyes filled with gratitude, trust, and something deeper, a bond that was no longer just fate but choice. They had been redeemed, not only by freedom, but by the love and courage she had shown. And she too had been transformed. She was no longer just a wandering girl. She was a keeper of destiny, a part of something ancient and extraordinary. They walked together through the forest, sunlight glimmering on their hair and clothes, golden eyes scanning the trees for any sign of danger. Each step was careful, measured, yet full of confidence. They moved as one, connected by magic, love, and a bond that could not be broken. At the edge of the forest, they paused. Alara looked out at the kingdom beyond, at the mountains and rivers that stretched toward the horizon. Freedom was not just in the forest. It was out there, waiting for them to claim it. And together, they could face whatever challenges awaited. The largest prince placed a hand on her shoulder, warm and reassuring. "We are stronger because of you," he said. "Whatever comes, we will face it as one." The middle prince added, "The past may have chained us, but the future is ours to shape, and you are at the heart of it." The smallest prince smiled, eyes glimmering with quiet joy. "You saved us, and in doing so you have saved yourself as well." Alara looked at them, her heart full. She understood now that destiny was not just about curses or fate. It was about courage, love, and the choices one made. She had chosen to care, to act, to trust. And because of that choice, they had all been redeemed. As they stepped out of the forest and into the light of morning, a soft wind stirred, carrying the faintest echo of the sorceress's voice. But it no longer chilled her heart. She felt the warmth of the princes beside her, the bond they shared, and the strength she had found within herself. Whatever darkness remained, they would face it together. For the first time in her life, Alara felt truly at home. Not in a village, not in the safety of the familiar, but in the midst of the extraordinary, with creatures of myth who had become men, and with a bond that would last beyond time itself. And somewhere deep in the forest, the shadows stirred, whispering of new adventures, new challenges, and the enduring power of love and courage. But for now, the golden-eyed princes and the woman who had saved them stood together, free, transformed, and ready to face the world. The bond had been forged, tested, and redeemed. They had survived the darkness and emerged into the light. And though the path ahead was uncertain, they would walk it together, golden eyes and human hearts united, bound by love, trust, and destiny.